Well, I love playing football. It's probably one of my hobbies that I do on the side in my spare time, and football's a lot of fun. But football is also a game that's quite aggressive. It's one of those games where people can be pretty rough. Now, I tend to be more of a lover than a fighter. I sort of don't love the aggressive. I love getting someone and tackling them and getting the ball off them, but I don't love sort of the push and shove. I kind of like that, but I don't like when blokes are bigger than me and they want to hurt me. It's a side that I don't like about football, and you can get quite sore after football and stuff like that. And some blokes are just aggressive and they want to push and shove for any reason that you get. So football naturally gets a lot of fights, and there's some fights that are warranted and there's good reason for that. And there's a lot of fights just because it's a lot of big dumb blokes that just want to get their energy out, I suppose. It's probably one of the reasons I like to play football. But as I said, I don't like to get into the fights too much. But I remember this one day I was sort of sitting under the ball waiting, and then all of a sudden as I'm looking at the ball, I kind of just black out for a couple of seconds, look up and I'm on the ground, and some bloke would come and punch me bang in the mouth while I was waiting to mark that ball. But as I'm getting up, I can see all these feet, and there's like 3 of my blokes on top of this bloke that punched me, just giving it to the bloke. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And the reason they did that was because they were on my side. You see, at my footy club, there's some people that I like, and there's some people that I think, oh, I wouldn't hang out with them in my spare time if I was to decide. So there's just, because there's 22 blokes on a team each week, but then there's also another probably 8 to 12 people that are part of the team that need to come in when there's injuries and such. So, you know, about 30 people, 35 people, that's a lot of people to like. So there's going to be some annoying people there, isn't there? And we all play on the same team each and every week. So I've got to decide if these people are the ones that I'm going to play for or not. But regardless if I like them or not, as soon as we all put on, and we've got it's the old Fitzroy jumper, but it's called the Cardross Lions, we put that on and we run out and play together. And as soon as we put that jumper on, as soon as we step over the line, every single one of them is on our team. Doesn't matter if I find them annoying at times, doesn't matter if they're my best mate. I don't classify them any differently when we're on that field wearing the jersey together, because we're on the same side. We're there for each other regardless, just like they were when I got punched in the mouth that day, and they were there making sure that that guy was nowhere near me and he was getting what he deserved for punching someone in the face. Another time something similar to this happened. I was near a teammate. We were out on the half-forward flank and the ball, we were sort of the only ones near there, and the opposition had the ball. And he must have been an old rugby player or something. He grabbed the guy's legs and dumped him on his head, which you shouldn't do in football. It's what's called a dangerous tackle, something that you shouldn't do. And I remember seeing it and thinking, oh boy, he should not have done that. That was pretty stupid, and didn't agree with the actions of this guy. But what happened is the guy that he dumped and one of his teammates come along and they start fighting the bloke. They want to get into the bloke. And I'm sort of thinking in my head, I'm like, oh, that guy deserves what he's getting right now. He deserves a good punch in the mouth for dropping a guy on his head. But because this guy was on my side, because he was someone that was wearing my jersey, I had to go in and fight for him. I had to go and drag the bloke off him and get between him and try and make sure that nobody could hurt him, purely because he was on my side. It didn't matter what decision he made. It didn't matter that his decision was wrong, but the fact that he was on my side is what shaped the actions that I had next. Like in sports teams, we all need people in our life that are like that, don't we? We need people that are on our side, sort of regardless of how we act. We still want people that pull us up for what we did, but in the moment we want people that are for us, that they love us so much, that they love us unconditionally, and they will be there for us when we need them the most. And as we talk about this today and we talk about the role Jesus plays in our life, I wonder, do you have someone in your life that is always for you, that's always there to bat for you, is the common Australian saying that they have, that will help you when trouble comes? And this person, you might be thinking in your head, if you've got people like this is the person that comes to your mind when you're driving along and you get a flat tyre or you run out of fuel. Who's that person that you call in that moment? Who's that person that when you're not sure who to go to, you pick up your phone and they're the one that you call? Because you know that that person is always there for you. So we draw closer and closer to Easter, which is only 2 weeks away. As I said, this series has been hoping to shape our minds on the cross, because we've been looking at chronological stories of Jesus as he gets closer and closer to the cross, as he gets closer and closer to what would be his final moments. At the start of a series, we looked at when Jesus healed on the Sabbath. He healed a man on the Sabbath, and then the Pharisees went away and they began to plot how they would kill Jesus. We now come to a moment today and we're looking at the story of Lazarus. We're coming where he rose somebody else from the dead. And all of a sudden, many people would argue that this was Jesus' greatest miracle before his own resurrection. And this is that moment. This would be the last miracle we see before the Pharisees decided that they were going to make sure that Jesus had to stop now. He had to be put on the cross really soon. So I wonder, as we are talking about this idea today, I also wonder if you've ever heard someone say, the universe is just against me. Oh, life's just not for me. Life's just not fair, and everything that I do ends up being terrible. The universe isn't for me. Or they might even use a bit more of a specific phrase. It might be, God is just against me. But then when people use this term universe, it's interesting to tap into a little bit more when they say that. So I think what they mean in general is they think that there is a higher power in this world, and they think that perhaps God, or a God if they're not a follower of Jesus, they think that someone there is batting against them. Someone there is not on their team and does not want them to succeed. This is a common feeling for many, whether they're not a follower of Jesus or that you might be a follower of Jesus. And it's not a bad thing at some point in your life to have that feeling, Jesus, are you for me? Jesus, are you on my side? I've talked to many people at certain times that felt like Jesus has abandoned them, that felt like all these things are stacking up against them, that life's not going the way that they want it to go. They wonder, Jesus, where are you in my life right now? So how do we respond when Jesus doesn't show up the way we want him to? When Jesus doesn't do what we think and what we know that Jesus is capable of doing? Do we start thinking thoughts like I just said, that Jesus is not for you? Do we develop resentment towards Jesus? I've talked to many people over the years that do develop resentment towards Jesus because prayers weren't answered at a time where they wanted prayers answered, and they think that Jesus' absence in those moments means that Jesus is not for them. I'm sure there have been moments where you feel like everything in life is stacked up against you. Maybe you've gone through sickness. Maybe you've had a sick friend. You've suffered a relationship breakdown. Maybe even in this whole cost of living epidemic that's sort of happening at the moment, you're thinking, Jesus, why is this so hard? Why is life so hard? Where are you when I need you the most? And you ask, why is everything so hard? We ask Jesus, where are you in my life when I need you the most? Today, I hope as we look at this story, we see a story where some people really needed Jesus, and he didn't show up quite the way that they wanted him to show up. I hope that this story will show you that Jesus is well and truly on our side, even though he doesn't answer prayers exactly how we think Jesus will answer the prayer. So you'll find this story in John chapter 11, verses 1 to 56. Now, I know what you're thinking. You just heard 56 verses. I hope he's not reading them out word for word. I won't, because it's quite it's the whole chapter, this story. But please go home and read this story word for word, John chapter 11. It's fantastic. Just read the whole book of John. It's pretty awesome. But John chapter 11 we're looking at today, and I'm just going to just focus on a few of the main points so you get an idea of what's happening in the story. So we see Jesus and this man named Lazarus. So it starts off with Jesus is kind of just sitting there, and all of a sudden, this lady comes across. And you see, Jesus had three friends. We recognise at the start of his story that some people whom Jesus already knew, Mary, Martha and Lazarus. They're friends of his. We see another part of the Bible where he's at their house reclining at the table with these three people. So Mary was the sister of Lazarus. Now, just so you know, this Mary isn't Jesus' mother Mary. It's just another Mary. It must have been like John back in the day, just a common name that we hear. So the passage begins stating that Lazarus was sick. Lazarus was sick. So his sister Mary sends word, and she goes to Jesus and said, Jesus, the one you love is sick. Jesus was known for healing for the sick. So I'm pretty sure if I was friends with Jesus and someone was there dying of a sickness, I'm like, oh, this is easy. I'm going to call Jesus. He'll come, heal this sickness, as he's been doing to so many people, even people he doesn't even know. So he'll heal Lazarus because he knows Lazarus. He's a friend of Lazarus. He'll heal Lazarus and we'll be fine as daisies. That's not quite how the story happened. Because what we see after they said, Jesus, the one you love is sick, what we see is they've gone to another town to tell Jesus this. So he had to travel to another town to go and heal Lazarus. We see these words. It says, Jesus stayed where he was 2 more days, and then he decided to head back with his disciples. 2 more days. That's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever told someone, it's a bit like when you want to leave the house and you've told whoever you live with, oh, let's get going now, and they're not in the same rush as you. I feel like it's that, but like 100 more times urgent. They're like, Jesus, the one you love sick. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm just going to hang here for a couple more days and then I'll come and heal him. Oh, okay. So we see Jesus eventually, after the 2 days, heads down with his disciples. So Jesus arrives in Judea, but we find that Lazarus he was already in the tomb when he got there. That by the time that he left in 2 days, and it was also a journey that would take days to get there as well. So by the time Jesus actually got there, we find that Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. That's a long time to be dead. So Lazarus was dead and he was well buried. He was in a tomb. So we see his other sister, Lazarus' other sister, Martha. She came to Jesus as Jesus was approaching their home. And she said to Jesus, Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now, God will give you whatever you ask. It's a really interesting statement, this one, I think. It's a powerful passage when you read it. So it's sort of got a mixture of hope, but also a mixture of resentment, all tied into the same little passage. Because we have, if you had been here, Jesus, my brother would not have died. It's basically saying, where were you? What took you so long to come and heal my brother? You've healed people you don't know. How could you not even heal the one that you love? So she's got that resentment there, but then there's hope when she says, but I know, even now, God will give you whatever you ask. So there's still some hope there. Have you ever been in a similar situation? Have you ever been in a situation like Martha and Mary here, where they know exactly what Jesus is capable of? You know that Jesus can heal the sick. You know that Jesus can do incredible things. You've heard stories of Jesus doing incredible things. You've heard online and maybe from friends of miracles where Jesus has turned up when the odds are stacked against, but then Jesus doesn't show up in your life when you want him to show up the most. How do you respond? You know Jesus is powerful, and then when he doesn't answer your prayers the way you want him to, like Jesus, where are you? You start to think, surely Jesus isn't for me if he doesn't answer my prayers the way he answers other people's prayers. But you see, that's not what happens. So Jesus sees, though, the other sister. So we've seen Martha's response, but then we see Jesus come up, and then Mary approaches him next as he gets closer again. And Mary said hers didn't quite have the hope that Martha's statement had. Mary says, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. She just puts it plain and simple. If you were here, my brother would not be dead. Jesus then sees her weeping. So these women were surely in this moment, Jesus, whom they thought was their friend, Jesus, whom they thought loved them. They're like, Jesus, where were you? How could you have left us in this time where we needed you the most? How could Jesus know that Lazarus was sick and not come until it was too late? How could you just sit back in Judea for 2 days when you knew that Lazarus was sick? And perhaps you've felt feelings like this before. You've had questions of this before, and you've had to wrestle with it for a long period of time before. How can the man who is not sick, Martha must have been wondering, Mary must have been wondering, how could the man who heals the sick not heal my brother? Jesus' response shows us and confirms us, though, that even when we think Jesus is just sitting there, capable of fixing everything, sort of just sitting back there in heaven, capable of fixing everything and just being, okay, I'll get to that it's not the case. So even though Jesus doesn't answer our prayers exactly how we think he should, and at exactly the same timeline that we think that he should go by, we need to know that Jesus is well and truly on our side. You see, Jesus was deeply moved in spirit and trouble when he saw Mary distraught. And we see in the shortest verse in the Bible, actually, we see so deeply moved when we just see the simple words, Jesus wept. Jesus wept. So Jesus mourned with Mary and Martha. The one whom he loved was dead. Still for Jesus, a friend of Jesus's, was dead. And others whom he loved was hurting. We see it was sort of in response to the sorrow of Mary and Martha that caused Jesus to weep. So Jesus was on their side. When someone weeps for you and when someone comes alongside you and mourns with you, it doesn't mean that that person is against you. It means that that person is well and truly on your side. He may not have responded exactly how they wanted him, but we can see he hurts with them. He mourns with them. And much when you have trouble come up in your life, Jesus weeps with you. Jesus mourns with you. Jesus is heartbroken when people don't have their eyes on him, but he loves you so very much. What's incredible is that this wasn't to be the end of the story. So Jesus would go to Lazarus' tomb, and Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. He called out to the tomb, Lazarus, come out. And Lazarus would come out still in grave clothes, the passage tells us. And we see Lazarus would come out. If you heard this story in Sunday school, when I used to lead Adventure Club, we used to get the kids to wrap one person in toilet paper and then they had to pretend they were dead. And someone would say, Lazarus, come out, and they'd pop up and they'd jump up and walk around. And it was much like that. It says in the passage that while he was still in grave clothes, he came out. We see that Lazarus came back from the dead. And we see Jesus truly show that he had the power over life and death and truly show that he was God. And there's a lot of theological theological things that come with that we could study and talk about. But it was from this moment that the Pharisees and the teachers of the law went from plotting how to kill Jesus to saying, right, we have to get this guy on the cross. And then not moments later, but just a few chapters later, we see Jesus go to the cross and be killed. It was from this moment on that we see that it would be the end of Jesus' sort of public ministry because he had to go into hiding, and that he would later be arrested at a different time, which we'll focus on in a couple of weeks here at Easter. But Jesus showed that he had the power of life and death in this miracle. But we also get a powerful image of Jesus' heart. It's interesting. Why did Jesus weep? Because he knew that he was probably thinking in the back of his mind, I'm going to get to Judea. If he's dead when I get there, I'll just raise him from the dead. I don't know if he thinks like that. But then after that, Jesus still wept with Mary and Martha. Jesus still showed that he mourned with Mary and Martha. Jesus shows he was still deeply moved and well and truly on their side. So on one side in this story, it's an incredible image of Jesus' heart. Because on one side, we see Jesus in his God nature. We see Jesus in his nature where he can actually bring someone back from the dead. So Jesus is God. But then we also see Jesus' fully human side, because Jesus is fully God and fully human. And we see that human side when he weeps. We see that human side when he mourns. We see that human side where he is trying to comfort these other people. So Jesus may have the power to solve all your problems. He may have the power to heal everybody in this world. But where he may not heal everyone and fix everything that's wrong in everyone's lives, he will mourn with you. He will weep with you. Because regardless of how he answers your prayers, he is always on your side. So there is no doubt Jesus is on your side. And you're probably hearing this thing, good big deal, he wept with someone. That doesn't mean that he's on their side, does it? Well, much like Brody talked about in communion, it's not just the fact that Jesus wept that shows us that he was on our side. But it was the greatest act that Jesus ever did that showed us that he is on our side. You see, Jesus' love is far greater than our love, because his love doesn't fluctuate like ours can. So as humans, our love fluctuates, our feelings towards everybody in our life. There'll be times where we feel resentment and we feel I don't think a human can ever possibly say that we have complete unconditional love for someone, because we've got this selfish nature that sort of still thinks about ourselves just a little bit. So when Mary and Martha first sent word to say that Lazarus was sick, they didn't say, our undeserving brother is really sick. He is a really good citizen. They didn't send word to Jesus to say, Jesus, this really important man who's really a really great man, he's done so many good things, he's sick, you need to heal him. They didn't say that. What they said was, Lord, the one you love is sick. The one you love. See, they knew Jesus loved Lazarus. It wasn't their love for Jesus or Lazarus' love for Jesus or his good deeds that moved the heart of Jesus. Judah Smith talks about this passage in his reflections on this section. He says it was pointless to recite a laundry list of their brothers' achievements. That wasn't what moved the heart of Jesus. It was his own love that motivated him. It was his own desire to bless and heal and restore. That's what caused him to raise Lazarus from the dead. So we know that Jesus is on our side, not by how he responds to our everyday incidents, not how he responds to the different prayers we make each and every day. So we know that Jesus is on our side because of what he has already done for us and what he's achieved for us in his death on the cross and his resurrection from the dead. Jesus would say in this passage, the final I am statement. There's 7 statements through the Gospel of John where Jesus says, I am the true vine, I am the door, and I am the light of the world. He says all of these different I ams. But the final one he says here, and it's a very significant one, but he says in verse 25, he says, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? Jesus is on our side, so much so that he gave his whole life completely for us. And there's so much just packed in this one little statement. As it says, even though they die, and whoever lives by me believing will never die. So we'll die on earth, but we'll have an eternal life with Jesus in heaven. So we're given this choice to follow Jesus. In his resurrection, he came into the world and defeated sin and defeated death. So instead of just sort of pulling us out of these one random little times, instead of just healing a dead person again and again and again, he wanted to defeat death once and for all. So there would be no sin in the world, so there would be no death in the world. We still have to live a life that is surrounded by sin and death. But we get to have an eternal life with Jesus in heaven because we believe him. And that act, Jesus living that perfect life and going to the cross as the only one that didn't deserve death, showed that he was on our side. It says this in Romans chapter 8, verses 31 to 34. The Apostle Paul writes these words, and especially as we think, is Jesus on our side? Well, it says, what shall we say about such wonderful things as these? If God is for us, which we've discovered that he clearly is, who can ever be against us? since he did not even spare even his own son, but gave him up for us all, won't he also give us everything else? Who dares accuse us of whom God has chosen for his own? No one. For God himself has given us right standing with himself. Who then will condemn us? No one. For Christ Jesus died for us and was raised to life for us, and he is sitting in the place of honour at God's right hand, pleading for us. I love that image of God's right hand pleading for us. See, God is on our side. Notice in that passage particularly that Jesus died for us. He was raised to life for us. He was sitting in that place of God's right hand pleading for us. See, God is well and truly on our side. Jesus is on our side. And it's not about how much we love him that matters. It's not about how much, and it's regardless of how close we feel to Jesus in a season of our life. It's regardless of how far we feel from Jesus in a season of our life. He always loves us. He always loves you. So what's important is we don't let ourselves forget that when life gets tough, that we remember that this world isn't perfect, that we do have to toil in this world. There's whole books in the Bible. If you read stuff like the books of Lamentation, you see people complaining and groaning in this time because there are hard seasons in our life. We see many people in the Bible face tough seasons, but they don't take their eyes off Jesus because they remember what Jesus has done for them. He will always be there for us because his death on the cross and his resurrection from death, that was once and for all. It wasn't just for everyone who had lived, but it was for everyone who lives and was to live. He took sin away for everyone. The important thing is, though, that we put our faith in Jesus, that we believe in Jesus. But knowing this, knowing the gospel, we call this just having a good grasp of the gospel, of understanding the gospel. What it needs to do is give us confidence. Confidence so when life gets tough that we don't doubt. Confidence that when life gets tough and all of these questions we might have, is Jesus really there for us? We need to remember, of course he's there for us. He died for us. He gave his life for us. He came back from the dead for us so that we can have an eternal life with him in heaven. So we need to remember that, and we need to let that be something that gives us confidence as we step into life. So again, just to draw back to footy for a moment, when I step onto the field, there are a lot of blokes that are a lot bigger than me when I go on a football field. Unfortunately, I wasn't blessed with height. I sort of wish that height was something that I had, but I'm not a big, strong, tall bloke. So when I go out on the field, I know there is a very good chance that I could get hurt. And there's a very good chance people who are bigger than me are probably going to hurt me. But I can still go out and play a game of football with confidence because I know I've got 21 other people around me that are there for me, that are on my side and are going to be there and play that game out with me so they can block for me, so they can help me when I'm coming up against these big blokes, and they can help make sure that I don't get too injured or pummeled by any of these big blokes. And that gives me the confidence. Instead, it takes away those nervous feelings that you get when you go out in that situation because you've got a group of people that are on your side no matter what. And that's the confidence that we need to get from Jesus. We can step into this life knowing that Jesus is with us. And even though the obstacles will come, even though the things in our life will be stacked against us, we need to remember that Jesus is always there for us. He is our comforter. He gives us peace. And even though there will be times where it feels like he is so far away, even though there will be times where it feels like he is not coming for another 2 days and then he wants to wander in to our life, that he is there for us, that he's given our life for us. And even though there may be pain in this life, he has promised us an eternal life in heaven where there is no pain, there is no suffering, and there is just this complete joy of being reunited with our Creator. If you don't know about that, if you've never heard that story, please come and speak to me after the service. You might be here and you might be knowing that, and you might be wanting to continue to commit your life to Jesus. Please speak to me. It could be through baptism. It could be just through serving at the church. It could be through so many different ways. It could be through inviting other friends to our Easter services or our picnic service so they can hear this true, amazing story of Jesus. But please just remember that Jesus is always on your side.